So Kevin Durant has sat down with Steve Nash and they reflected on their days in Brooklyn. And ironic enough, Kyrie Irving was able to apply a rebuttal to their conversation. But these are interesting times in this new media landscape where a lot of players have their ability to push their own narratives. And let's not forget, the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving Brooklyn experience was the peak of player movement and guys forcing trades and getting their way. So first we're going to check out what Steve Nash and Kevin Durant had to say about the experience, and then we'll get to Kyrie Irving. So you guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
And I'm like, who am I spending my next 5 years with? I had just signed that deal. You had just signed the deal. But I feel like we were secure, but everything else around us was going to shit. Not in a bad way. We got GMs going to other teams. We got coaches going to other teams. We got players forcing trades. We got bringing Ben Simmons. He's back. Like, it was just so much
Stuff going on.
bullshit around us. I feel like we were locked in on the same page and understand, like, well, we're trying to do something special here. And I felt like your hands were tied a lot because you had to, as a coach, you got to deal with so much. You
Didn't get to coach as much as I wanted to.
That's what it was. I didn't think we didn't get the full Steve Nash like I wanted, like you probably wanted. I just felt like it was just too much, too many distractions in a way. And you know, you can't win that way. And but I felt like we had great intentions though. I felt like we cared enough. I felt like every day we were trying to push towards winning the champ. It was a great vibe in there. It's some of the best times. That first year, that's why I signed that deal. That first year, man, most fun ball I had. Some of the most fun ball I had playing my whole life. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Brooklyn a lot. I love playing for Brooklyn, but it's just so much
stuff happened
around the.
And also lack of infrastructure. The Brooklyn Nets, structurally, they were not ready to receive two megastars like that. You see, winning a championship is more than just how much you're paying to get players. It's also about having the personnel there to hold guys accountable. When you have Kyrie Irving making statements like, I can be the coach, KD can be the coach, you start to see small signs of where things could end up butting heads. If there's no hierarchy in the organization and everyone just on some happy to be here shit, wow, KD, Kyrie, you guys chose us without even speaking to us. This is how unplanned this whole KD and Kyrie Irving saga was in Brooklyn.
Around the guys that were committed to the situation. I felt like we were committed but everybody else wasn't. It just was weird.
Sometimes I feel like I let you guys down in a way, and then I think about everything that happened.
Come on, man. That
you
shit
know, like
was...
we had a 3-star roster. You know, the cap is team 3 stars. Played 16 games together.
We balled out every game we played together.
You know.
Don't let that slide right there. They only played 16 games together. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. Only 16 games together. That is insane. And we got to shoot the Brooklyn Nets some bail. The pandemic happening derailed their situation a little bit. But also being in New York City, there's a lot of politics that come with that. And as we've seen it play out with Kyrie Irving and the mayor, a lot of politicking going on over the jab situation. But the mayor at the time, Eric Adams, was trying to make a point and was virtue signaling to the higher ups of his particular political party that he was pro-jab. But once again, they kind of fell into a rut with the politics of the city and the jab mandate in New York City at the time not making any sense. The Nets players had to have taken it. Meanwhile, while the visiting team didn't necessarily have to abide by those rules, but at the same time, they got to participate in playing in the games and just being in the arena with the fans. None of it made sense. That's why at the end, it all got abolished.
That's one. You know, you could go down the list and add all these things, and for me, I end up feeling like I'm making excuses. The reality is, from my perspective, I feel a little bit like I let everyone down, but then I realized there was so much to me, and I just wish I had more of a chance to develop as a coach.
I think so too. I just think your hands were tied too many times. You had to be a principal more so than anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just couldn't, like, inject your basketball just everything that you have basketball. I didn't feel like you could inject that into everybody in the way that we all envisioned. You know what I'm saying? Just because of the distractions, COVID, injuries. More than anything, I think it's injuries. I feel like we had a good chance to win that first year.
But we were injured. James shouldn't have been playing. He was on one leg. Kyrie was out. Hurt. Jeff Green was in and out.
Yeah.
And
So I think more than anything, I think we had a great chance to win it that year. I stepped on the line, but it's just
it's life.
Yeah, that was the closest that they got. Yeah, unfortunate for Kevin Durant, his foot on the line, but that was a hell of a series against Giannis, who had one of the greatest playoff runs ever.
Some shit happens that way, man. Right. But I don't think that should be an indictment on anybody. It's just like people don't understand context, though, man. What truly happens and how you need to really be connected as a group. Like, it just looked at the names and thought it's supposed to be perfect.
And people always think like you said, without context, but also they want to come in over the top and say, they didn't do it, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I think for guys like that go every day, like our approach to our routines, it's war.
Every day.
We're not afraid to lose.
Yeah,
exactly. Right? You know what I mean? So when we lose, it doesn't work out. We're not at home and everyone's like, they're killing. We don't think about that, right? No. We think about taking on the chin. Let's get ready for whatever the next war is, right?
We're going putting our boots back on the next year. That's always been a mentality, but the dialogue around the league, the discourse around the league, they don't truly appreciate the journey sometimes of what goes on. Even the ones that don't work out. Right. You can still see some beauty in the Sacramento Kings that didn't win the chip.
Right.
Or your Phoenix Suns that didn't win the championship. Yep. Like, it's if you really love the game of basketball, you can pull great things from all of that stuff. And that's what I tend to do with that Brooklyn situation.
Kevin Durant is 100% right on that. Unfortunately, because of the sports debate culture that exists right now off of the backs of First Take, the storylines and the journey does not get appreciated as much. And in this whole Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant saga in Brooklyn, there's a lot of major milestones from it. The number one I could think of fresh off of my head is the fact that this was truly the end of the era of stars formulating their own big three and choosing their own personnel and coaches. It doesn't get talked about too much, but the fact that Kevin Durant has signed that extension and then asked for a trade, that was egregious. And we're seeing the results of that now with this new CBA, the way the owners strategically got rid of player movement. You see, the NBA under this new television deal, it's going to be very rare to see certain superstars hit free agency. Just look at the past couple of seasons. Paul George is really notably the only player to hit free agency as quote-unquote a star. And out of desperation, the 76ers gave him that 5-year deal. So when we look at Anthony Davis wanting out of New Orleans, Kevin Durant signing a fresh new extension in Brooklyn, then asking for a trade, all these things accumulated to the situation the league is in now, where you don't see too many guys moving from team to team.
We had some fun times. We had some terrible times, but that's life. That's what makes you a better human being. But for the most, if I'm being honest, we had more good times than not. Even the times when it was me and 4 two-way, it was fun to me.
We were successful.
Because we locked in as a family, just us for that little 48 minutes, and a lot of those games were high pressure games, late games. I'm sure those, even me, I learned from, but those young guys took a lot from that too. So I look at the season like that a lot. Of course, we want to win and go to the chip, but it's little small moments that I can appreciate throughout a year, even though we don't add up to winning. And a lot of people don't understand that, but we that shit is in our DNA and our blood. We look at the game of ball like that.
So after seeing the sit down between Kevin Durant and Steve Nash, Kyrie Irving offered up his rebuttal to the situation in Brooklyn. And once again, we're in an interesting media landscape right now where the pettiness out of the NBA, a lot of the pettiness that goes on in these locker rooms, eventually is going to trickle down to the podcast space. But right here, Kyrie gives great insight into how this whole Brooklyn ordeal kind of started and him not actually speaking to the Nets front office. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
With the Nets front office one time. I didn't meet with the GM one time, the assistant GM one time. Literally when I look back at that decision, I'm like, man, I should have taken some more time to delegate and figure out what's best for me. You know, KD had just tore his Achilles in the finals. Me and him were, you know, planning on doing things to go to Brooklyn, right? I don't know any of you guys that would still stick it out with one of your friends that tears their Achilles and wait a year and a half for them to get healthy, but I'm that dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not about to leave K out there after a torn Achilles and be like, nah, fuck that. We not going to play together anymore. I waited for my brother to get healthy. You know what I'm saying? And now Brooklyn, I wish that we got a chance to get to know them beforehand because they wasn't fucking with me like that. You know? And that's just me. That's my perspective. Now, did they want me on the team? Sure.
Now, Kyrie right there admitted something that we all kind of figured. Kevin Durant's that beautiful girl at the club, but your boy that's with you got to take one for the team and talk to her ugly friend, which is Kyrie Irving. And you could tell from the way they treated Kyrie throughout this whole saga. They were not happy about him not taking the jab. And when it came time for those extension talks, it got real quiet.
Kenny Atkinson wasn't fucking with me like that, bro. Nets didn't want me like that. They wanted K. And that's my vantage point, right? This is the information that I gathered after I left. And again, this is not about Brooklyn. It's just about business. I wish I would have handled the business better and got a chance to know them first. Ask them questions. Hey, what's the future like? Instead of just committing blindly and thinking that, hey, we about to come in here and just do X, Y, and Z.
Now, right here, we got to add some context into why Kyrie came into the situation blindly. That's how strong it was at the time for superstar players to actually command where they want to go. Player movement at this time was at an all-time high, and a lot of superstars did not see any repercussions for demanding trades and going to different teams, regardless of how the situation played out, good or bad. They got paid and they got what they wanted. So let's keep this in mind. This was at the height of player movement.
Right? I didn't have much power going in there. I couldn't say who we could get and who we could not get. I couldn't hire the coach, or if we, you know, you guys knew my opinion on the head coach at the time, right? It wasn't perfect, but it was very immature, right? I was very immature at that point. I'm 27, 28. I'm leaving Boston, feeling good about going back home. You know, I'm hype. You know what I'm saying? I'm signing. You know what I mean? I left my management company, went to Rock Nation at that point. Ended up leaving Rock Nation 2 years after that. I signed with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, a lot of changes were going on. I had teammates, I had friendship changes, but I'm going to get back to the point, right? When I was in Brooklyn, I just look back at that business decision like, yo, get to know the front office before you make any decision. It's just, yeah. Now, it was a lot happening, you guys. Trust me. A lot of tentacles in the...
Again, Kyrie entered into the Brooklyn Nets situation with a lot of leverage. But at the same time, yeah, they did have their own plans. But here he is again, reacting to some of the comments that Steve Nash and KD had, reflecting on their time in Brooklyn.
Around the guys that were committed to the situation, I felt like we were committed, but everybody else wasn't. It just was weird.
See, this was the part where I honestly looked at it and I was like, when he said this, emotionally I was like, okay, we're all committed to the goal at the end of the day, but sometimes not everybody's gonna follow what you want them to do.
And this is where KD gets caught up at, because Kyrie is his own man's. And they actually had one too many people in that locker room that was way too headstrong. Spencer Dinwiddie is another player. He does not like to be told what to do. And KD does not have strong enough leadership skills to lead a group of men like that. He's proved it throughout his whole career. Just look at how the Nets situation played out. He never took onus from the team. He never spoke to Kyrie man to man. This isn't working out. We're going to trade you and then we're going to move on. Instead, he signs an extension and then double back and ask for a trade. Makes no sense. They gave you the keys to the franchise. Take onus for it.
Wish I had my soundboard for this, but not everybody's gonna do what you want them to do, and I've had to accept that as a human being and as a leader. Not everybody's gonna do what you want them to do. Not everybody's gonna be committed the way you want them to be committed, right? And it's not like Kay is asking me for this, but it's like I asked for this commitment before I committed to Brooklyn from him, which was a beautiful thing. I'm like, yo, let's commit to this thing. We could build up Brooklyn. We could really put Brooklyn on the map. You know, nobody's really thinking about Brooklyn. But when he said that, I'm like, bro, Steve wasn't even in the play yet. But this is your man's. This is your man. So I got to support that. This is your man's. Cool. You want him? Cool. You like Steve? I love Steve. You know what I'm saying?
Now that's the interesting dynamic right there. No wonder Kyrie made those comments, hey, KD can coach, I can coach. There was a level of contempt for the coaching hire. Ironic enough, the Nets had the exact coach that they needed the whole time, and Ime Udoka is one of the assistants. God damn, they kind of had it made because even Mike D'Antoni was one of the assistant coaches also. Again, just because a team has a lot of resources with no infrastructure, no hierarchy, it's going to be complete chaos. Winning a championship is just way more than the personnel you can buy. It's having a system in place to hold players accountable, and the Nets did not have that.
Cool. As a younger brother, I'm like, okay, I don't care. That's fine. You want Steve to coach? That's fine. But when you're committed to the same goal and then a year changes things and then things going behind the scenes, like, come on.
But everybody else wasn't. It just was weird.
Yeah, it was weird timing, bro. It was weird for everybody. It was weird for everybody, y'all.
Now, the timing was weird for everybody because Karis LeVert, I believe they had a small forward, Harris. He was on his A game. Spencer Dinwiddie. A lot of these guys the season before had nice roles with the Nets, and they were in a building stage. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, no one even knew, now they're getting some of the top players in the league, and they have championship expectations. The situation in Brooklyn was definitely out of whack. It was out of sorts. So with that being very noticeable, even guys like James Harden, when they joined the team, he's made comments alluding to the situation structurally within the organization was all over the place. And Kyrie Irving right here speaks on it, including when Ben Simmons was put into this already chaotic equation.
The landscape of where Ben was at, right? I don't think we knew where Ben was at. So when that trade happened, it shocked a lot of people. It shocked me. I was talking to James one day. I'm like, shit, bro, we about to go with these championships. And it was like a day later, asked for a trade. I was like, oh, shoot, okay. Shit like that now. Okay, I can't be mad. I'm not going to ever be mad at someone doing what's best for them, right? And shout out to James, right? And I've had my conversation with James, and I told him, I said, bro, I understood completely.
And let's add more context to that. James Harden actually rejected his extension with the Nets. They actually offered him that. At the end of the day, he did want that money, but he didn't want it from the Nets. And unfortunate for him, it was hard for him to get that same extension going forward. But at the time, player movement was at an all-time high, and the superstars had all the leverage. And also, James Harden was coming from an organization that was a little bit more grounded. In the last couple of seasons prior then, he was in Houston, and they were consistently at the top of the Western Conference, making deep playoff runs. So there's a structure that comes with that. And him going into Brooklyn, he probably didn't see any of it. And right here, Kyrie Irving speaks on it.
Other teams, we got coaches going to other teams.
Yep, and he's talking about coaches going to the team. Ime Udoka literally went to the Boston Celtics after coaching with us. That was crazy, bro. You know, that was crazy. We had Ime Udoka literally go to Boston the next year.
It was already crazy you guys hired Steve Nash over Ime. Everyone knew he came from that Greg Popovich tree, and at the time, he was a highly coveted assistant coach. They knew he was going to be a great head coach already. There was plenty of rumblings around the league about him. So what he did in Boston didn't come by any surprise.
I mean, like, you got coaches leaving other teams, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It's just opportunity. But we're in the same division. Can you imagine going against the coach that literally saw all of our strengths and weaknesses, and now we're playing against them?
Exactly. And also, let's go to the James Harden situation. Why make a trade in the same division for a player like Ben Simmons, who clearly had a mental breakdown in the playoffs? His confidence at the time was at an all-time low. Why insert him into that chaos? If you're going to trade James Harden away, trade him away out of your division. Nothing the Nets did made sense. They were just too all over the place. Once again, the Nets were like that dorky guy that's dating the hottest chick in the school, but then he doesn't really know how to handle it. That's the exact scenario that they were in with KD. When expectations come with no organizational structure, it's just straight chaos.
You know what I'm saying? So Boston was ready for us. Ime had them ready, had the Celtics ready, dog. When we played them in the 2022 playoffs, shit got wild. Shit got wild, y'all. For sure, shit got wild. So we had a lot going on. Katie is right. That's what I'm saying. When I said I'm gonna address this on stream, it literally was just about doing this and having fun with it and letting people know. Okay. Letting people know like what it is. That's all.
Now, Kyrie right there had a quick pause and he looked at his phone. That's because his agent was letting him know that he was saying too much while being on that stream. We all love that Kyrie Irving speaks from his heart, but him being in the league, they still got to play it cool.
I'd like to just say this as a disclaimer, okay? Me and Katie are not beefing. I'm not beefing with Steve Nash. I'm not beefing with anybody, you guys. All right, this is not personal against Katie.
Hey, the NBA is a petty league, and when you insert this brand new media dynamic with the technology evolving so much that all these guys have their own platforms, it allows for a brand new channel for a lot of that pettiness to actually catch on fire and just get everywhere. So not all franchises are built the same. Some of them have structures organizationally, like the Miami Heat, where if guys like KD and Kyrie came in, their feet get held to the fire to certain standards and certain guidelines. The Nets clearly are a franchise that were happy that the hottest girl in the league was able to come to them, but they were not prepared organizationally. And it showed. And it definitely showed. The pandemic, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Ben Simmons. It's just a lot of chaotic factors coming into that building with already no structure. It's just a complete shit show, and it was definitely a fiasco, but there were some good moments. Some flashes of brilliance. Kyrie Irving that first season had brilliant games where he put on a scoring clinic. And Kevin Durant in 2021, even though they had a whole bunch of injuries, brought him very close to getting into the finals. But sometimes sagas like this are not really meant to last long.